Back in the late 90s and early 2000s, romantic comedies were everywhere, and people couldn't get enough of them. And these were the years when rom-coms ruled the big screen, giving us iconic love stories where there was comedy and unforgettable characters. And two films that really stood out during this era were 10 Things I Hate About You back in 1999 and How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, which was released in 2003. On the surface, they seem pretty different, one set in high school and the other in the world of magazines and advertising. But when you look closer, they actually follow a very similar structure. Both are built around a romance that starts with a lie, characters who clash but slowly fall for each other, and a big emotional moment where the truth finally comes out. And it's no wonder why both of these movies have become classics. They capture everything we loved about rom-coms during that golden age. 10 Things I Hate About You is a modern retelling of the Shakespeare's The Taming of the Shrew, set in the late 90s American high school. The story follows Kat Stratford, a fiercely independent and sharp-tongued teenager who has no interest in dating. Her youngest sister Bianca isn't allowed to date unless Kat does, so a plan is to hatch to pay the school's resident bad boy, Patrick Verona, to woo Kat. What starts as a scheme quickly turns into something real, with both characters learning more about each other and themselves along the way. The film is known for its witty script and stand-up performances by Julia Stiles and Heath Ledger. How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, on the other hand, brings us into the fast-paced world of New York City's media and advertising scene. Andy Anderson is a magazine writer assigned to create a piece on how to drive a man away in 10 days by doing everything women are not supposed to do in a relationship. At the same time, Ben Barry, an advertising exec, makes a bet that he can make a woman fall in love with him in 10 days. Of course, they end up choosing each other for their respective plans, leading to a hilarious and chaotic love story full of mind games and awkward dates and genuine chemistry. Starring Kate Hudson and Matthew McConaughey, the film remains a staple of early 2000s rom-coms, thanks to its charm and clever twist on relationship cliches. Both 10 Things I Hate About You and How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days are driven by romantic setups built on deception, which becomes the emotional engine of the story. What makes these premises so engaging is the way they combine humor, tension, and eventual vulnerability. In 10 Things I Hate About You, Patrick's mission is to win over Kat. Seems like just another teenage scheme at first. He's paid by another student, Joey, through Bianca's admirer, Cameron, to get Kat to date him. Not because he genuinely likes her, but so Bianca is allowed to date. Kat, who is fiercely anti-conformist and doesn't trust anyone, slowly begins to let her guard down. Meanwhile, Patrick, who starts off playing a part, begins to fall for her, and the longer the lie continues, the higher the emotional stakes become. Similarly, in How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, the entire relationship between Andy and Ben is based on a double deception. Andy is trying to make Ben break up with her by acting like a stereotypical clingy girlfriend for a magazine article, while Ben is trying to make her fall in love with him so he can win a big advertising account. Both characters are unaware of the other's true intentions, and the audience is let in on both secrets from the start, creating a constant sense of anticipation and dramatic irony. And what really makes these storylines work is how the character starts to reveal their true selves in spite of the lies. The fake dating setups force the characters into close proximity and situations that reveal their deeper emotions. As a result, the audience watches them fall in love, not because they're trying to, but almost in spite of themselves. And when the truth is inevitable comes out, it's not just the betrayal that hurts, it's the realization that the feelings were real all along. And these emotional turning points are what elevate both films from light-hearted romps to memorable love stories. The deception is the hook, but the growth and honesty that follow are what give both movies the staying power. opposite attract trope is a classic in romantic comedies. On both 10 Things I Hate About You and How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days use it to great effect, not just for the laughs but to show character, growth and emotional depth. In 10 Things I Hate About You, Kat and Patrick seems like the complete opposites on the surface. Kat is fiercely intelligent, opinionated, and proudly stands apart from the crowd. She's someone who rejects popularity and openly criticizes the high school's social scene. Patrick, on the other hand, is mysterious, laid back, and has a reputation for being a troublemaker. But as they spend time together, their differences become complementary. Patrick isn't intimidated by Kat's strong personality. In fact, he's intrigued by it, and Kat learns to let down her guard with someone who sees her for who she is. The chemistry builds through sharp banter, tension, filled conversations, and vulnerable moments, making their connection feel earned rather than forced. In How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, Andy and Ben also come from completely different worlds. Andy is a smart and a witty journalist who wants to write serious, meaningful stories, but is stuck writing fluff for a women's magazine. Ben is confident and thrives in the competitive world of advertising. Their initial personalities seems incompatible. Andy is intentionally pushing him away of the top behavior while Ben is doing everything he can to keep her interested. But beneath their professional facades, they each discover someone's unexpectedly genuine. Andy finds that Ben is more thoughtful than he lets on, and Ben realizes that Andy is more than just another woman. She challenges him and he likes that. What makes the opposite attracts dynamic work in both films is that it breaks down the stereotypes. Kat isn't just a difficult feminist rebel, and Patrick isn't just a bad boy. Andy isn't just a crazy girlfriend, and Ben isn't just a charming player. As the characters reveal their true self, their differences stop being obstacles and start becoming the reasons they fall for each other. The contrast between them adds tension and spark, but it's the gradual understanding and acceptance that make their love stories compelling. And this trope also raises the emotional stakes when people who don't seem like they would work out. It feels like something rare and special might happen. And that's exactly what both films capture. The idea that love can blossom in the most unlikely situations, and that sometimes your opposite might just be your perfect match. One of the reasons why 10 Things I Hate About You and How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days still resonate with the audiences today is the portrayal of strong independent female leads who break away from the typical rom-com mold. Kat and Andy are both smart and self-assured and unapologetically themselves, qualities that makes them more than just romantic interests. They have agency, ambitions, and opinions that shape the story just as much as their male counterparts. Kat Stratford is not your typical high school girl. She's book smart, politically aware, and openly rejects societal expectations of how women should behave, especially in high school. She doesn't just care about being liked, she questions authority, and she's refreshingly blunt. Her strength and independence are what make her stand out, but also what makes it difficult for others to connect with her. That's what makes her emotional arc so compelling when she starts to let her guard down and fall for Patrick. It's not because she's been tamed, but because she finally meets someone who respects her for who she is. Her vulnerability isn't a weakness, it's a sign of growth and trust. While Andy Anderson is a woman trying to push beyond the limits of her current role as how-to writer. She dreams of covering serious topics but is boxed into writing relationship fluff pieces. She takes on the Lose a Guy in 10 Days assignment with ambition and confidence, determined to nail the challenge while also poking fun at the stereotypes women are often expected to fulfill. She's funny, assertive, and completely in control until her feelings for Ben starts to get real. Watching Andy navigate the balance between her career goals and her personal emotions adds depth to the character. She doesn't lose herself in the romance. Instead, she demands that she be loved for exactly who she is. Both Kat and Andy challenge the idea that women in rom-coms are just passive recipients of affection. They drive the plot forward, make their own decisions, and to grow on their own terms. Their relationships don't save them, rather, they reflect their personal growth and willingness to open up. And because we've seen how strong and guarded they are at the beginning, their emotional vulnerability by the end feels powerful and not cliched. In a genre often criticized for reducing women to a one-dimensional love interest, Kat and Andy stands out as an example of how complex, confident, and capable women can still fall in love without losing who they are. The emotional payoff in both 10 Things I Hate About You and How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days hinges on a pivotal moment of truth, a public confession or a confrontation where all the deception comes to life. These scenes are more than just dramatic turning points, they serve as the emotional climax of each story, where the vulnerability, regret, and genuine emotion finally cut through the games and lies. In 10 Things I Hate About You, Kat's poem, where she reads out loud in front of her English class, is one of the most memorable scenes in teen movie history. Up until this moment, Kat has kept her emotions tightly guarded, using sarcasm and cynicism as a shield. But through the poem, titled 10 Things I Hate About You, she reveals just how deeply Patrick's betrayal hurt her, and how much she has grown to care for him. The public setting heightens the impact. It's raw, exposed, and unfiltered. Her tears and honesty mark a significant shift, not just in her relationship with Patrick, but in her willingness to be vulnerable in front of others. It's a moment that's both heartbreaking and cathartic. And similarly, in How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, the climactic confrontation between Andy and Ben is explosive but emotionally charged. When both discover the other hidden motives, the glossy surface of their romance cracks. What follows is a heated argument, one that's equally laced with anger and disappointment, but underneath it all is the truth. Their feelings were real despite how it started. The emotional weight of this confrontation is essential. Neither character is innocent, but they both feel betrayed because somewhere along the line, their fake relationship stopped being fake. Later in true rom-com fashion, we get a romantic gesture where Ben is chasing after Andy as she leaves the city. But this moment only works because of the emotional groundwork laid during their earlier confrontation. It's not just a grand romantic gesture for show, it's a way of re-establishing trust, now with honesty at the forefront. And these climatic revelations serve as a crucial narrative purpose. They force the characters to face the consequences of their actions, lay their true feelings bare, and decide whether the relationship is worth salvaging. By ending an emotional truth rather than just convenience or romance for romance's sake, both films create resolution that feels earned.